Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of AGORACOM, in which we take the time to speak with small cap CEOs and executives about recent important news. With us today, again, I'm very to have Bernard Tourillon. He's chairman and CEO of Uragold Bay Resources. The company trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol UBR. Now, for those of you who are new to the story, Uragold Bay is a resource junior focused on generating free cash flow from mining operations. Okay, so their business model is centered on developing mining projects suited for smaller scale startup that can potentially generate high yield returns. And the company is planning on doing this by developing Quebec's first Beauce Placer mine in 50 years. Now, above and beyond that, the company's 100% wholly owned subsidiary Quebec Quartz is the largest holder of high purity quartz in Quebec. The company has put together a portfolio of high purity quartz deposits and closed silicon metals mines. As a result, and more than just lip service, on March 2nd, the company put out an announcement that, I'm quoting here, a major producer confirms interest in purchasing significant tonnage of high purity quartz from Uragold. That was followed on by a press release on April 13th, in which the company announced that it signed a memorandum of understanding with Dorfner and the plan to evaluate the potential of their high purity quartz deposit. That's what we're here to talk about. Bernard, welcome to the show.
Thank you, George.
All right, so before we get into Anzaplan and everything you're doing here, let's first ask some basic questions about how, we know that standard quartz is pretty abundant, but how rare is high purity quartz, and how much of it do you think you may have?
How rare? It is extremely rare, because you need quartz vein. Extremely high purity quartz, we're talking 99 plus, 99% SiO2 plus, is extremely rare. And there's two things. You need the chemical purity, and you need some physical properties that the rock must have to be transformed. What makes our properties, at least some of the properties we tested last year, very unique is we meet both of their criteria. We have the chemical propriety, and we have the physical propriety. That's the significance of the news release when we say a silicon metal producer wants to buy our material. It's because it meets those criteria, and that is very, very rare. You can sometimes have the chemical ones, you don't have the physical one. You'll have the physical one, if you don't have the chemical one, it won't work. Yeah, how much do we have?
Oh, sorry, no, go ahead, sorry.
How much do we have at this stage? Everything is still at the stage of historical potential or historical data. I don't know. I can't remember which is the exact definition they want me to use right now. It's historical work that was done in the past. The reason being, we have a lot of properties, and we decided to focus on seeing if there would be a buyer for our end product before we went and calculated the resources. That was really the focus. It's actually much more cost effective. Where you go for it, you pick up the samples, you send them to laboratories, you get the chemical results, and then those chemical results attract end user buyers. I can tell you that we were in a short time in a graphite space, and never when we were in the graphite space did we have end users calling us to send them samples. In the quartz space, from the moment we started to publish our results, we have been approached by multiple end users requesting samples and material.
And that kind of third party validation, I think, is extremely important, especially in this junior resources space, because one thing for you to say and opine of what you have, but when you have third party major producers out there calling you up, I think that takes you a step above.
Yeah. Well, yes. It basically also makes sure that you can focus your energy on a product that someone's going to want to buy. In industrial metal and minerals, it's not the same thing as in gold. Gold, you have a price, you know what it is, and everything is pretty standard. Gold, copper, iron ore, those type of materials are the same. We're talking about a specialized metal or specialized material that is highly demanded but requires very specific qualities and everything else. I've seen people invest a lot of money, try to figure out how big the resource is, and then they get scratched as, okay, what do I do with this material? We went the other way.
Yeah, and so that makes sense in this day and age when it comes to trying to actually conserve financial resources. It's tough in the junior market, so you've got to make smart decisions like that.
Well, I've actually pulled the plug. I think we're the only junior that invested, maybe less than $100,000 in acquisition exploration, and already have a major producer requiring us or asking us for material. I don't think there's anybody that's done that so far. You can see in the graphite space, they have to go send material and everything else. This is why we sort of structure ourselves for that.
Assuming everything goes well, how big and lucrative is the high purity quartz market?
It's actually very lucrative, but there's also many different stages. If we just go for the high purity lumps quartz, okay, you'll probably make a 100% profit margin on what you're doing, because it's not it's not an expensive procedure to do, but you won't get the big margin. Then if you invest just a little bit more money and purify it, then the prices keep going up. Once you start at 99.6 and you start moving to 99.9, 99.99, 99.999, there's different usages. Everything we use in the modern world, okay, requires silicon or quartz, because the two are interrelated. First of all, silicon is Si, quartz is SiO2, so they're both the same material. You can't modify or purify anything that's silicon-based without having high-purity quartz crucible. So everything in our technological world runs on silicon, and everything is based on having high-purity quartz, because you need that ultra-high purity material.
All right. So how does Anzaplan play a role there? Now, is their job to process your quartz, your high purity quartz, get an ultra high purity quartz, or are you just trying to figure out, as Anzaplan can help you out, whether what you have in the ground is high purity versus ultra high purity?
No, what we have in the ground is high purity. All right, 99.6 is high purity quartz. What they're going to do is, how can we then remove the impurity, okay, in the material? What is the most efficient ways to remove the impurities in the material to bring it up to the highest level, and then give us cost benefit scenarios? The advantage of working with Anzaplan is they already have a test plan over there. Okay, so they'll do the beneficiation. They'll tell us, okay, we can, using this strategy, we can get it up to 99.999. Or using this strategy twice, we can bring it up to 99.59s or whatever. I'm giving numbers here. And says, okay, this is very, very good. We need to, then the end buyer is going to say, okay, can you give us a representative sample of what this is? And it says, yeah, we can make 1,000, we can make a ton of the material. So we get a ton made there. We send it to the end user, and then come back and says, okay, we'll buy this type of material. Then we know, we take our rocks through the Anzaplan process, we will be able to generate the material. Then we just designed the flow sheet of revenues and everything else.
And would Anzaplan be the processor if everything went well, or are they going to determine the best process, and then you'll do that in Quebec?
At the beginning, at the test phases, they'll do everything there. Once we've determined everything, then we'll move it down to where we are. We'll end up manufacturing there. This is why the idea is sort of, I want to run the two strategies in parallel. Okay. I want to be able to furnish high purity lumps quartz to the silicon metal, all right, to generate some cash flow, start operating everything else, and in parallel keep ourselves some of the best rocks, and just to use them to make ultra high pure quartz sands. And then, since we have many other deposits around, then we can start, getting other materials and test it. The concept is start with one property that's well situated. That's on crown land. There'll be no big issues starting it. It's a very big structure. So it has everything there. It's in Gaspésie, so there's a lot of government incentive for us to build things there. So everything is very positive there for us to get the first project really going. In parallel, we'll keep working on the other one, and we'll gain more and more experience and feedback from the end user and the buyers.
So Bernard, let's go back to my question that started that whole conversation there. If everything goes well, how lucrative could the high purity quartz market be for you?
Well, as we said in our press release, the price range we're seeing for this material is between $2,000 to $10,000 per ton. We're shooting for the $7,000 a ton, which is the triple 99.99. And up, 996, 997. That sells for about $7,000 Canadian. That's really is our objective, what we're looking to get at.
All right. So now, in order to find out if we're going to get to that, how long tell people at home, how long do you expect this evaluation to take? In the press release, you talked about shipping samples to Anzaplan. So take us through a timeline here. You ship the samples, how long it takes to get the results back, and then how long it takes to figure out what you've got in the next stages.
From what I've seen in the material that we've discussed with Anzaplan, we're talking something like 4 months from the moment they receive the sample. We'll get everything be done.
All right. When do you expect to send the samples?
Once the snow finally melts away from Gaspésie, we're going to be sending our team there to start to do some exploration work.
All right. Once you get those samples back, so it's looking potentially like the end of the summer.
It should be sooner.
Or sooner.
Yeah.
At that point, if everything goes well, how will Anzaplan play a role in taking you beyond that evaluation stage?
Well, once they've basically done the preliminary evaluation, if they've done the first laboratory test, basically they made the first high purity quartz sand samples at those level, then the next question is, okay, how much material do they need to make to get samples sent to end user buyers to get contract? That's really the goal, to get since they are a fully certified, world renowned laboratory. If they say that we reach this level of quality, that's basically it's done. We have the criteria and the standard. That's one of the reasons why we're using them, is because they are expert in that field. They have a laboratory that meets all the criteria. They're ISO 9000 and everything else. So basically, what they say at the end is what buyers want as the quality control. That's also why we're going to be doing the first batches manufactured there, so we can confirm to the buyer that we can produce the materials in significant quantities. And then we will be acquiring from them the equipment and the procedures to make it back at our set. But we'll start doing it there, subcontracting.
So as a major producer that you announced on March the 2nd, are they going to be waiting for the results from Anzaplan, or are they moving along?
No, that is completely independent. The major silicon metal producer has already done all their tests. They've actually tested 3 of the materials of our properties. They've mentioned that out of the 3 that they tested, the 3 of them met the physical requirements for them to use in their process to make silicon metal. Because it's a process that uses arc furnace and everything else. So they basically told us that 3 of our properties actually do meet the physical properties for it. But they told us that they prefer the Roncevaux property material, and that they'd like to receive significant quantities. Now, significant quantities can be anywhere between 20,000 ton to 50,000 ton a year.
So what is the timeline for moving along with the unknown major producer?
Well, the timeline is sort of the same. At the same time, we're going to go pick up the sample. Okay, we're going to go back. We're going to start, because on the properties, what we've announced is there's one vein that was a historical vein. It is, I believe, 200 meters long by 20 meters wide in area. Goes down to 50 meters of depth. That's how they came up with the historical volume. Also, our team, when they visited the property, said that there's 6 others parallel vein next to it. So what we want to do in the spring is just go there, basically start taking a look at it, removing the material, see how much volume we look to have from surface, and then from there start to make some estimation of the volume and how we could go around doing it. Because the end user buyer doesn't really need a 483-101 to do everything. They just want us a process. This is going to be a quarry type of operation. It's not a mining lease that we require. It's a different type of situation. That's a very basically, if I could mine the material now, they'd be buying it from me now. It's just that we decided, and I think it's a better way of going forward, we decided to pick up to pick up a statistically representative picture of what's the quality of the material there is there, test it, and then they did their tests, and they confirmed their tests. Actually, their test came up with even better purities than ours. We can't divulge the numbers, but they came back with even lower numbers of impurities than we have. Because in the silicon metal and the high purity quartz, it's not the purity of your material that counts, it's your impurities that count. Because at the end, I know it's very technical, but there might be some impurities that one buyer wants and some other impurities that some other buyers don't want.
But the bottom line, these guys are happy, so that's not...
No, they're happy.
Do you have an estimated time of when you can begin mining and shipping to them and start generating actual cash flow and revenue? Is that something you can discuss in ballpark?
A ballpark figure, I keep talking like something like 18 months.
Okay.
12 to 18 months because we need to be able, we need to get the permitting done. Now it's extremely complex. We need to figure out how we're going to ship the material because they want to cost deliver there. And that's really what it is. Then at one point, this is why we're doing everything in parallel. All right. If at the end we realize that it's, we can make 20 times as much more money doing high purity quartz sand and selling the lump quartz, then we're just going to do the high purity quartz sands. Yep. If at the beginning we can start generating cash flow doing the high purity, just the high purity lump quartz to the silicon metal manufacturer, we'll do that. There's going to be an extremely high demand for high purity quartz in Quebec because there's one plant that does 50,000 ton a year. That's one plant that does 50,000 ton. There's going to be a new plant that's going to do 100,000 ton. Now for every ton of silicon metal, you need 3 tons of quartz. So if you make the math 150,000 times, that's 450,000 tons per year of material is going to be required. That is a lot of material, and there's not that many massive deposits out there that meet both the physical and the chemical requirements.
All right.
So it really depends. If the Ronceau ends up being a world-class size deposit, then it's one thing. If the Ronceau ends up being a very significant size deposit, but we can make much more money in high purity quartz sands. We'll just focus on high purity quartz sands. What I've seen in other companies is you basically end up furnishing both of the material. You have lumps quartz and you have ultra high purity quartz sands, but there's not too many of them.
Well, it sounds like you've got a couple of great avenues in front of you. You've got a couple on the product side. You've got a couple of great avenues in front of you in terms of customers and partners. So I don't think it's a secret to say that we're going to have you back on here a number more times in 2015. And I want to thank you for going beyond the press release and just explaining in layman's terms the significance of this latest MOU with Anzaplan.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You've been watching Bernard Tourillon. He's Chairman and CEO of Uragold Bay Resources. The company trades in the stock symbol UBR, the TSX Venture Exchange. Make sure you get to AGORACOM if you want to see other great videos we've done in the past, or naturally go search up the company on the web and take a look at their homepage and their website for more information. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.